Okay, I got you a funny one. There's a illegal immigrant that collected 900 a month in food stamps. Okay, you guys got that one, right? While smuggling 70,000 a month in meth into the United States. Yeah, this is a doozy. Oh my God. Okay, 900 a month in food stamps and smuggling in 70K a month in meth. How did the food stamp people even miss this one? This is why we need to check everything out in the United States. This story is funny. A lot of people are getting ticked off, but this stuff is amusing me, really. I mean, I already went past piss off a long time ago when I first heard about these. But now these stories to me are getting funnier about food stamps. So who's regulating these things for all this to happen? That's what I'm wanting to know. I mean, is just somebody in there rubber stamping all these applications? Like, oh, there's too many applications coming in. Let's just stamp them. Must be. But we'll go to the story here, and you can take a look at it. Please subscribe or check up or down if you like or dislike it, or leave a comment. I like reading your comments.
Protests are continuing over the president's policies on illegal immigration, but this may quiet some critics. A new report showing an illegal immigrant caught here in the U.S. was smuggling $70,000 in methamphetamine per month while receiving $900 a month in U.S. food stamps. Now, some here say that's exactly why cracking down on illegal immigration will protect our security and our tax dollars. Are they right or wrong? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asson. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Mike Ozanian, Elizabeth McDonald, Bill Baldwin, and Mark Tadji. Mike, illegal immigrants, even felons, are getting billions in welfare. And this woman, who we showed the picture of, getting $900 in food stamps while dealing meth, her boyfriend was a cocaine dealer. He had such an arsenal of weapons, the cops said it was enough to outfit a platoon. These are the people getting food stamps.
Yes, David, this shows exactly why this country, to protect its sovereignty, must be a nation of laws, must be a nation that follows the Constitution. Unfortunately, under the past president, Barack Obama, the immigration and customs enforcement regulations, he really watered them down. He ransacked that department, and as a result, those who were caught entering this country illegally, the percentage of those then deported went way down.
Mark, I got to say, though, that protesters don't really deal with the fact that the deporter-in-chief was President Obama. He deported 3 million people. That averages to about 1,000 a week during his term as president. That's actually much less than what President Trump is doing.
Well, look, I don't want to destroy the narrative here, but the idea that people who are in the country illegally are all dealing drugs or committing violent crimes, there simply is not a factual basis for that, or that they're all on food stamps. I mean, the number of people in the country illegally versus the number of people who commit crimes versus the people who commit violent crimes or serious drug offenses, those are three different figures. And we don't really have accurate numbers. And this is hysteria. It's hyperbole. I don't want to destroy the narrative.
That particular case that we started with was not hyperbole. That was an actual case. And EMAC, there are some stats that are together. Like, for example, the deportations under President Trump, 75% of those deported were actual felons. And look at this. This is how much the Heritage Foundation says average welfare payments per household for the illegal immigrants, $24,000 in welfare, Medicaid, and so forth. They do pay some taxes, $10,000, but that leaves you with a net to the taxpayer of $14,000 per year.
Yeah,
per
you're
immigrant.
right, David. Listen, I kind of agree with Mark. I don't think the majority of illegals are violent criminals at all. I hear that. But I am tired of victims' families when people have been killed by illegals, that they're treated like rounding errors. Or in this instance, taxpayers are treated like rounding errors. That woman who was in that you cited, who was arrested, she was in a violent drug gang where 11 of the 25 members, 11 of them got welfare. And so, 11 of them. So 20, by the way, 2/3 of illegal households, though, are on some form of welfare. Those are some of the estimates that are coming in.
And that's a lot of money. But Steve, to the protesters' point, there is a cost to deportation. I think it's over $3 billion a year.
Well, that's simply security, David, and that should be irrelevant. The key thing is, does it save lives? This gets to the whole thing of sanctuary cities, where they refuse to allow local law enforcement officials to work with the federal government. Violent criminals here in New York, a guy member of an MS-13 gang, one of the most violent gangs around, they wouldn't let immigration officials interview this guy, get this guy. He had to be released from Rikers Island, the prison in New York, and then the feds could pick him up. That is outrageous.
And once again, Rich, I mentioned this before, but for all the talk about the innocent people being deported, again, under Donald Trump, under the deportations being criticized by protesters, 75% of those being deported are criminals unrelated to their illegal activity. That is, these are hardened criminals. Those are the people being deported.
Yeah, and that's as it should be. That's a really good start, and I applaud the Trump administration for doing that. There are 11 million illegals in the United States, and what you have to do, because there's not an unlimited amount of money, nor cops out there to do all the enforcement to send every one of those 11 million back. You have to prioritize with the violent criminals and the felony criminals and work your way back. At some point, there's going to be a cost benefit that no longer works. But let's certainly start with the violent and the felonious criminals.
Absolutely. And Mike, again, getting back to this example at start, there is also money to say. There's the public safety side of this issue, and there's the money side, and sometimes they come together. Perhaps these deportations will save taxpayers money.
Yeah, I understand that, but and I know this show is about money, but there's two bigger issues here, I think. Number one is, why do we get to pick and choose what laws we follow? Does this mean that every city and state says, well, I don't want to follow this law, I'll follow that law? I mean, there's much bigger ramifications here. You know, the law is the law, and it must be followed. If you want to change the law, then Congress needs to pass a different law. The second thing is, you know, I realize Rich is saying that 11 million illegal number, and I see that all the time, but that number's been out there for years. So that would imply that over the last several years, there hasn't been an increase in the number of people that have come into this country illegally, and I don't buy that.
Bill Baldwin, go ahead.
Well, I'm all in favor of deporting violent criminals who are here illegally. Aren't we all? The bigger question, though, is there some way that we can make this country more welcoming to people who want to come here legally and a lot less porous to people who don't want to come here legally? And I don't think the president has the answer to that tough question.
Rich, go on.
Hear, hear.
Well, it's got to be worked out. Look, I mean, you know, you go back through Republican and Democratic administrations over the last several, and they've not solved this problem. But you've got to prioritize. That's all I'm saying. You've got to prioritize. I think we all agree with that. You start with the violent and the felonious criminals.
And I got to say, Mark Tadji, that so far, that 75% figure of those being deported being felons is better than what President Obama had. President Obama's best average during his term was 58%. So Trump is doing better in terms of focusing on the felons than President Obama did. Go ahead.
But 75% of what figure, David? I mean,
75% of the folks who've been deported under President Trump have been felons.
But we don't know what that
President
number
Obama had 58%, so President Obama didn't deport as many felons as Trump has. Go ahead.
So a couple figures. If there's 11.9 million illegals in the country, the number of people who've committed crimes is more like 2 million. And of those who've committed serious crimes is 800,000. probably, or even less. So, I mean, 75% of what figure? Of 500,000, 600,000? I mean, this is a small problem in our country, and we're throwing
People are getting
the
killed.
entire weight of the federal government behind it. We're going to spend enormous sums to collect a small amount of money.
When people are being killed, it is a big problem, is it not?
We've been having on camera a woman whose son was tortured and set on fire by a criminal illegal. I mean, listen, I hear what Mark is saying. Personally, I am for a path to citizenship for the law-abiding
So is President Trump.
And so is President Trump. That's common sense. You can't deport 11 million people. That's ridiculous. It would create such an uproar, and the size of the force you need to do that, no way. So I think there's common sense you could play here.
Trump would like to do.
Steve,
No, he's
go ahead.
not.
Wrap
He's
it up
not
for
going
us,
to do
Steve.
11 million.
Wrap it up, Steve.
Mark did it on the bottom line. 800,000 serious criminals in this country here illegally, trying to send back at least 600,000. That would seem to be a no-brainer. What's the problem here?
All right, coming up next, the president says he will slash spending to bring down our debt, but some here say go big or go home. It's time to scrap entire agencies. They name which ones coming next.